All right, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for today's interactive update around Fairfield Athletics. My name is JJ Duke of the Stag Sports Network. Hope you all are doing well out there, and I'm going to be facilitating this afternoon's conversation. We are joined today by a panel of student athletes, coaches, as well as the Director of Athletics for Fairfield University. So at this time, I'm going to welcome everybody to today's chat. First is our Director of Athletics for Fairfield University, Mr. Paul Schlickmann. We are also joined today by the head coach of the Fairfield men's basketball program, Jay Young, the head coach of the Fairfield women's lacrosse team, Laura Field, as well as student athletes, first from the field hockey team, a rising senior, Zoe Rosen, and Lewis Edwards, who will be a graduate student this coming fall from the men's tennis team. Thank you very much for joining us today, guys. We really appreciate it. To get us started, this afternoon's program is going to be split into a couple of parts. First, we're going to be hearing from our panel on a few topics, and then we're going to open it up in the back half of our show to a question and answer segment. Now, for those at home who want to get involved and want to ask questions, all you have to do is go down to the bottom of your screen to access the Q&A function and then send in your questions, and we're going to get to as many as we can during today's program. So first, my question is for Paul. Obviously, there's been a lot going around in the world, both outside of college athletics and within college athletics, as well as the university itself. We're going to get to a few of those topics, but first, you and the rest of the university and the athletics department have a pretty big day coming up in just a little over a couple of weeks' time. On June 4th, it will be the 5th annual STAGiving Day, and that's going to be taking place to raise critical funds for all athletics teams at Fairfield. And part of that is to enhance the experience for all STAG student athletes, plus a number of other things. Paul, first, can you walk us through what STAGiving Day is and what that does for our Fairfield student athletes?
Thank you, JJ. Appreciate that very much, and I will get to that. I just wanted to offer a quick thank you to you for hosting us today, and it's a pleasure to be on today with our great panel. And I also want to extend thank you to everybody who's joined in the call today. This is a really fun event, certainly a new venture for us, and something that we've been engaging in quite actively over the course of the last 2 months. So we really appreciate everybody being on today. This is a great cross section of our Stags family. My understanding is we're around 200, and looks like we have some staff and student athletes and alums and faculty and staff. So really appreciate that. It's great to have so many of you on. And if I may, just for a minute, just to be cognizant of all that's going on around us, I don't think any of our Stags family members are immune to what's the impact of the coronavirus has been. So to all those who are out there, we hope you're staying safe and healthy, and certainly hope that if it has impacted your direct family or your loved ones, that our thoughts and prayers go out to you as well. So we'll keep you in our thoughts as we all try and stay safe and healthy. And yes, JJ, we're really excited about STAGiving Day coming up. It's obviously always been a critical event for us. This is our 5th time going through it, and it's become an annual celebratory event and day, if you will. It's a way for our staff and our student athletes to come together for a single-minded goal and an overriding objective of trying to engage our donors and our alums and our family members to garner support for our programs. And it's something that's very critical to our opportunities and our endeavors to provide them the best possible experience we can. That usually takes the form of operational support to enhance what we're doing, to afford them those opportunities. But sometimes the environment and around you and circumstances, necessitate kind of a rethinking or a recalibration of how we go about that. And so I think this year, while the overriding objective remains the same, and that's to provide the best possible resources we can to our athletes, we want this to be a premier Division I athletics program, and we want our athletes to have an experience that's second to none. But perhaps we need to think about the impact it's had on them, meaning this pandemic and the last 2 months and everything they've gone through over the course of this remainder of this semester, and how it will impact them future forward. So perhaps that means additional financial needs for our student athletes. Perhaps that means increased mental health and counseling services. Perhaps that means an enhanced look at how we provide career development opportunities for them and mentoring opportunities. And perhaps it means we look at how we recalibrate our academic services to them, given the changes that are occurring there with our online environment. So I think it's just a matter of us adapting as we do well here at Fairfield and recalibrating that and thinking how best to provide them with those continued resources. But we continue to be excited about it, and certainly appreciate all those here who have generously and loyally contributed to that, and hopefully will continue to do so.
Great. Thank you, Paul. When talking about STAGiving days, here are a few interesting stats and notes. 85% participation for our student athletes, 3 consecutive years. And last year alone, we had 435 alumni gifts and over 1,100 gifts that raised a grand total of $330,000. We're hoping really to match those numbers this year. That continues to help our student athletes achieve what is really a championship caliber experience while at Fairfield. We're going to turn our attention now to some of our student athletes who are joining us today. And first, I'd like to bring in Lewis into the conversation. Lewis, from your standpoint, how has STAGiving days and other fundraising activities and initiatives around your program really enhance your experience during your time here at Fairfield?
STAGiving Day has significantly enhanced my experience at Fairfield as a student athlete, and I think the benefits that we've received go beyond just the immediate, such as new gear and equipment and travel opportunities such as spring break. I think initiatives such as STAGiving Day, they create this sort of family-like culture that really enhances the experience for student athletes. And myself, just throughout the 3 years that I've been at Fairfield, I've seen tremendous developments in these areas, and I think if you see alumni and families when they donate and they give gifts back to Fairfield, it provides an incentive for myself to continue this support for the incoming Stags and develop their future Stags experience as a student athlete. And I think STAGiving Day really facilitates this type of family culture. Another group that I've seen develop in the last couple of months is the Fairfield University Men's Tennis Alumni Group. And I think this initiative is going to create some extreme benefits that, again, go beyond the immediate, such as opportunities for jobs or a mentorship program or some advice just as we continue on for our careers. But again, I think it really contributes to the growth and development of this family-like culture that I, again, will contribute to later on as I leave Fairfield.
Zoe, you have supported your program through the Student Athlete Participation Challenge over the last 3 years. Talk about why you feel it's important to give back to your program.
Well, just like Lewis said, it's so important to give back because you don't know like when you're gonna how much it really costs, because it's really expensive, right? We have to stay in hotels, we need to get buses and vans, and that just helps with the team culture and bonding. Then you also need to buy equipment, as he said. So I just want to be able to support my team, and whether it be now or giving a few dollars every year to in the future when I graduate and I'm able to provide more. I just want to always be a part of the family.
Great. And for both of you, is there anything you'd like to say to the donors who have not only helped your programs, but really have helped Fairfield athletics as a whole? Lewis, we'll start with you, and Zoe, you can chip in after Lewis is done.
I think I just want to send my sincere appreciation and gratitude for all your donations. Like I said, I think when you give a gift to Fairfield Athletics, you're contributing to something more than just a simple pair of shoes or new equipment gear or an opportunity to travel. You're building this really treasured family culture that I think is extremely valuable, and you're making the student athlete experience just so much better going forward. I've been here for 3 years at Fairfield, and the amount of progress that we've made in this particular area is extremely paramount. And I think we've made some great progress, and I just want to say thank you to all the donors and alumni that continue to support Fairfield Athletics.
Zoe?
It's really like a team mentality, pretty much. So by giving back, you're working together to better the school, to better your programs, to better the facilities. So thank you for doing that.
Great. Thank you to both. I'd like to bring in Coach Field now into the chat here. And Coach, your program has been greatly enhanced over the last few years by philanthropy that's helped your program do a lot of cool and unique things, whether that's trips to foreign countries, to new gear, to just enhanced travel in your non-conference scheduling. Why is it important for fundraising days like these to happen to your program, and really for all of our student athletes who are returning to campus so that they could look forward to things, or maybe some of our new student athletes to kind of get that experience right from the start?
Yeah, good to see you, JJ. I'll start with that. It's been a while. But absolutely, I'll echo what Lewis said. For us, the philanthropy is enhancement. And it really is setting the tone for what our program strives to be. We benefit directly from the sort of augmented income we have to buy gear, which directly benefits our athletes, but it's also a cultural commitment. We've been able to take trips of a lifetime. Last year, and just about this time, we were able to travel to Amsterdam and play the national team there. And then we were able to travel on to Cape Town and explore. And we would not have had that experience if we weren't benefiting directly from STAGiving and from our generous friends of lacrosse. This year, what sticks with me is, a very tangible reminder of what it means to give. Our last game was at Denver. We were able to take a trip over spring break and spend 4 days there, play a top 10 ranked team, and then have experiences as a team. We were able to travel and to go, we went sledding down a hill and down a mountain. And it's the last memory that we have as a team on a trip for this 2020 season that was curtailed. So without the impact of giving, we wouldn't have those memories and we wouldn't have that experience. And I can't express how much that means to our team.
Jay, I'd like to bring you in as well to hear your thoughts. This after your first year of being the head coach for Fairfield men's basketball and heading into a new season, what does the support mean for you and for your program that you get on a day like STAGiving Day?
Yeah. Hey, JJ, it's great to see you and some familiar faces. I was here just about a month when I experienced my first STAGiving Day last year. And I had been a part of kind of some similar events at some other schools, but I was really blown away by the participation of our student athletes in this event. To have 85% of your student athletes participate is just an incredible number. But quite honestly, STAGiving Day just shows the impact of philanthropy and what it can mean for your program and your entire athletic program, for that matter. It contributes to providing our student athletes with a first-class experience, both on and off the court. It aids with retention, which is huge now in college athletics. But I think more importantly, it just sends a clear message to our student athletes, to our opponents, that we are committed to providing all the tools necessary to have a championship level program. So it was great to be a part of it last year. I'm looking forward to being a part of it again this year, and I can't wait to see if we can move that number from 85 up a little bit and see how many people we can have our student athletes can participate this year.
I'm going to have both of you coaches answer one more question. We'll start with Coach Field, then we'll head over to Coach Young. Laura, for your team, what would you like your donors to know or to say to them heading into STAGiving Day? And Jay, the same question to you after Laura finishes.
I think what I want them to hear is I want to express our gratitude for every gift. I think sometimes our younger donors think that their gift doesn't matter. And I'm here to say that every gift matters. Every gift has a direct impact on our current athletes. And I'm very thankful that we have a very strong friends group that participates and that comes back and that supports us. And we really appreciate them. So what I really want to say to them is thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Laura said, that it doesn't matter the size of your gift. There's a real power to commitment that our current student athletes see. And again, I'd like to say thank you to all our alums, all of those who have given for really their unconditional and unwavering support of Fairfield Athletics. So please give, no matter what the amount is. It really, truly does make a difference in the lives of our student athletes.
Great. Thank you very much to both of you. And Paul, we're going to bring you back in. We obviously mentioned at the start of the show how important STAGiving Day is, mentioned some of the numbers, and they're truly staggering. And it shows a great impact that it has here on Fairfield University and its athletics program. So looking at athletics at a higher level and as an athletic director, talk about the impact that the day has.
Thank you, JJ. I appreciate that. And I'll just say I'm, very impressed with how our student athletes and coaches have articulated that so very well. I look at it in two frames. I have I'm fortunate to have a 3-year snapshot and really a 2-month snapshot that I'll try and frame my response in. Over the course of 3 years, just as Coach Young alluded to being blown away by the STAGiving Day, his first go round, I've been just so continually impressed and overwhelmed by the quality and caliber of our student athletes that we have on this campus. And I've been really fortunate to be at some incredible places and surrounded by some incredibly high achieving and high caliber young men and women. But I would put our Fairfield Stags up against anyone, anytime, anywhere. And so I have that sense in my head and in my satchel every day when I come to this place. And it inspires me and motivates me every day to try and provide them with all the resources they need to become the best version of themselves. Now I'll take that to another level in terms of my 2-month viewpoint of them or snapshot. So in the most trying of times, I have been fortunate to interact with them and see how they have adapted. They have been resilient. They have showed incredible work ethics. They have showed creativity. They have showed, all the things that you want them to show in times when times are tough. And so we talk about our cultural commitments, and we talk about every day competing, caring, leading, and growing. And I would say, even though the circumstances are different and they have been away from campus, they have done that with gusto. And we talk about being built for life. And I think they have shown that certainly they are. And so this is about supporting them. You heard from our student athletes, this is about supporting them and their endeavors. And I think it's a coming together of all our Stags family to show that and support that. And so it's a show of passion and loyalty and support from our entire group. We certainly, as the numbers indicate, we believe in ourselves and invest in ourselves, but we certainly need the ongoing support of everybody who is watching and listening today, and certainly all those greater good numbers that support us as well. So we appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Paul. For the 5th year, Fairfield Athletics hopes that you can support its student athletes by taking part in STAGiving Day. And again, that's going to be on June the 4th. So just a couple of weeks from now. Your support is more important as ever. Is like Paul said, we're looking to enhance the student athlete experience for Fairfield student athletes among, again, some challenging times, but still any support that you have would be certainly greatly appreciated. For more information, all you have to do is go to fairfield.edu/giveathletics. Now at this time, we're going to head to our question and answer portion of our show. And for those at home who'd like to send in some questions, we already have a list of them, but we're going to do the best that we can to get to all of them. All you have to do is go to the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. If you have something specific for any of our student athletes, coaches, or for Paul, or just all together, just let us know and we'll do our best to get to them. First question that we have is for Paul. Can you provide some insight right now on kind of how things are going in terms of college athletics as well as the university and our affiliated conferences? Because, as we mentioned, uncertain times at the moment, but where are we in terms of the planning processes, especially as we get closer to the fall?
Thanks, JJ. I appreciate that. And, I've been fortunate to, in my position, to have a front row seat on this topic from a couple different vantage points. So I've been serving on our university COVID task force team for the last couple of months, and we've been Suffice to say, working nonstop, daily, now meeting every other day as a group to engage in the planning and process to initially in response to everything that happened and the adjustments that we had to make, and now kind of turning the corner into a different phase of planning for the fall. So we're actively engaged and working tirelessly toward those plans, and being very mindful certainly of the guidelines put forth by the state of Connecticut and the governor and the task force on higher education, and sorting through all of those things to figure out a way to repopulate and open up our campus. And certainly that is the overriding objective and the goal. So certainly a lot to sort through with that. And within that framework, certainly thinking about how athletics fits into that plan and how we can go about doing that effectively and appropriately. The other athletics segmented or specific aspect of it for me is I have a seat on the NCAA council currently, fortunate to be in that role. And obviously, sit with our MAC AD council. So we have been actively engaged, again, in a series of adjustments legislatively, policy-wise, to kind of respond to the unprecedented impact of the pandemic, and all in the name of trying to provide resources and adjustments to student athletes. One of them being, providing an extra year of eligibility to seniors and spring sport seniors and those classes thereafter. Unfortunately, we still have more questions than answers, to be honest. There's very concerted efforts and progress being made on trying to frame what the fall might look like, and how best to do that. The NCAA has come out and said that they plan to host fall championships, but in what time frame and in what capacity, we don't know that yet. I think that'll help set the table for a lot of conferences to make decisions on conference play, be it championships or regular season. And then I think that'll in turn help institutions make decisions about what non-conference schedules and training sessions and or preseasons look like. So certainly still a lot to think through. I would say we're making progress. I remain optimistic and hopeful that we will get to the point where, just as we want students to come back to campus, we will have student athletes back on campus and doing what they do best and what they enjoy most. And trust that we're working tirelessly to do that. And we just have to come up with a framework here at Fairfield that aligns what we are working through as a university and all those challenges for our general student body to effectively manage how athletics fits into that framework.
We're going to keep it with you is a topic that you and I have discussed on a number of occasions, whether it's from our segments on from the director's chair, and we kind of turned it back a little bit to that day in early September where we were sitting across the way from Alumni Hall. I got a pretty bad sunburn on that day. It was rather hot, but it was the day where we broke the announcement of the Arena and Convocation Center. And certainly a lot of questions are coming in about that. So, Paul, question is simple. Can you give us a timeline on the status of that project?
Sure, happy to talk about it. I'm in my office and I'm staring at a picture of our new Convocation Center, and I still remain 100% confident that beautiful building will become a reality. Certainly, if it's no secret based on if you were to drive onto campus that Alumni Hall is still standing. And we're in a bit of a holding pattern. And I think there's some very logical reasons why that I think people would certainly have an understanding about. We initially, when this kind of whole situation came to a screeching halt a couple months ago, there were some initial guidelines put out from the state, from the governor's office on holding on new construction projects, certainly those of this type of magnitude. So that was an initial key factor. And then there's others too, that even if that were to, that avenue were to be put forth or cleared, this is obviously a self-funded donor-driven project, but there's also factors in the financial markets that are affecting bonds that will have to be issued in order to make this project a reality according to a certain timeline. And the given the circumstances, the ability to secure and to mobilize and to continue a construction crew and project of this magnitude would undoubtedly be complicated and challenging. Not to say that I don't have incredible trust and regard for Dave Frassinelli, our VP for facilities. He's a miracle worker. But those pose some uncontrollable problems. And then once, if you were to begin a project, there's some very real concerns about supply chain issues and the ability to begin a project and continue it and to garner all the supplies and equipment that you need in order to make it happen within a reasonable time frame. So those are all the factors that are playing into this, and why we are, again, I'll finish where I started, in a bit of a holding pattern, but certainly remain 100% confident that we will get there, and hopefully no more in the coming weeks as we proceed.
Speaking of the arena, I think it's fair that we should bring in Coach Young. Another question that's been brought to our attention here, with you being away from your players during this current period, how has that experience been like, communicating with them and just kind of being there, whether it's in your coaching capacity or really kind of just being someone that your players can talk to?
Well, we certainly miss not having them on campus and working with them, be it time right now or a couple of weeks ago when we would have just finished up our postseason workouts. So certainly miss not seeing them on a daily basis, but we've been able to, figure out Zoom. I don't think there's a coach in the country who's not now an expert on Zoom. And we've been having, in addition to talking with our staff almost on a daily basis, we do once a week team meetings where we bring in special guests to talk to the team. We've had some really incredible guests join us and volunteer their time. And in addition to that, the team kind of amongst themselves 3 times a week is running virtual workouts from wherever they are. And each team member is leading one of those workouts. So we're in constant communication with them, certainly not the same, but I think, with the technology that we have today, it certainly is a lot better if this happened during when I was in college back in the Ice Age. So it's been challenging, but we've been able to stay engaged and trying to stay connected with these guys as much as possible, for sure.
And also, Coach Field, kind of a similar line of questioning. In a different circumstance, so your season was obviously cut short due to the current situation. So what has that experience been like for you, working with your players during a difficult time, as well as a group of your players that this was going to be their senior season?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for us is it's a big change from our normal routine in season. It was a shock to everybody. I think any athlete, anybody in the country right now is disrupted with their routine. Having an in-season sport, it's a little bit more disruptive. I think for us, it was immediately a balance between recognizing the severity of the situation, but staying mentally checked in to school, to each other, to kind of the commitment going forward. Your heart breaks for the seniors who potentially, grad students who potentially, took the field for the last time, but then there's some optimism there for some returning players. I think we're all navigating the new normal. We've been creative with how we approach our interactions with our team. Very honestly, it's been a balance between learning how to stay in touch with them constantly, but also giving them space to adjust to the new normal. I mean, we needed to recognize that they're still in school and that they have commitments. So, we've done a lot of challenges. I've learned more about Zoom, as has Jay. I learned more about TikTok than I've ever wanted to know. We do a lot of fun things that just keep them engaged. And then our focus is on sort of their mental health and their, further development, whether that's career development, whether that's their progression through school, just making sure that they're not sitting static and that they're progressing in everything that they do. It's in some ways, the silver lining is the actual connections that we've been able to make, whether it's from an alum to our current undergrads, or just really having more conversational interactions with our current team. So if there is a silver lining, I think that's probably it.
And also, I should just note as well, something that we're doing on fairfieldstags.com. We're getting some insight from a number of our student athletes, whether they were in season or whether their season had concluded. And we call it Letters to the Herd, so make sure you check that out on fairfieldstags.com. Here also kind of the same question, but from the perspective of our student athletes. So we'll start with you, Lewis, and then we'll ask the same question to Zoe as well. What's this experience been like for you, in the sense that, season was cut short. Now you're dealing with kind of an unknown. How have you been able to connect with your teammates, or stay connected, I should say, with your teammates and coaches?
That's a great question, JJ. And I think as Coach Field put, that it was a disruption. Our daily routines were changed dramatically, and communication went with it. On my team, we have guys all over the world, a couple of guys in Europe as well. So the communication was definitely put to the test. But as Coach Young said, we were participating in weekly Zoom meetings to catch up on everyone's movements in the early days as the virus pandemic developed, making sure everyone was safe. And I'm very fortunate and privileged to have a coach and an assistant coach that always offer their support, and also to have teammates that really make sure we're always safe and healthy. So I'm very fortunate to have that, because the experience, I think, I've been very lucky. But I think going forward, it's been positive. It's been all around a positive experience. When making sure that we're always staying connected, and we're talking to each other on Zoom, and we're participating in weekly activities and challenges, etc. But we're looking forward. I think we are future looking, and making sure that it's positive, and coming in, we're ready to go and we're safe. But it's been an interesting experience and a learning curve. But overall, looking back on it, I think it's been very positive for the team and for the program.
Thanks. Zoe, same question.
We connect. Zoom really helps. And you try to get fun activities, whether it be trivia, because I guess we really like that. We also do team workouts, and we have some guest speakers. The other day we had Lindsay Martin, an alumni that played on our team, and she talked to us about internships and how you can improve your resume and all that, which was really good. But it's been sad, because we missed so many opportunities for the spring. We weren't able to connect in that aspect and travel together. But I can only imagine what the spring athletes are feeling.
Well, it's certainly kind of a segue into our next question. Lewis, as being a spring sport athlete, tell us kind of what the emotions were like when you found out that the season was going to be cut prematurely.
It was an emotional roller coaster, really. I'll never forget it. We were in the middle of our spring break trip in Orlando, Florida, and that's when we saw the news that everything was shutting down. The NBA was canceled going forward, and we're all thinking, I knew that the MAC was meeting the following day to determine whether spring seasons would continue. And we had a match at 6 p.m. the following day. We thought, is it really going to happen? We were almost in disbelief that it could be cut short so suddenly. And when it happened, it was honestly, we were all in shock. We didn't know how to approach the situation. There were so many questions that were left unanswered. And I felt so bad for my senior teammates that suddenly they have to think that this is it. This was their senior day. This was their last match. This was their last day as a team. The preparation and the send-off that we usually have for our student athletes as graduating seniors is tremendous. And to have that cut short is awful. But I think for most, that they're lucky. The NCAA has granted spring student athletes an extra year of eligibility. And if they can get the opportunity to return, then that's fantastic. But it was quite an interesting experience. And, I've been lucky to have friends and family to offer their support to all of my teammates who are internationals and all over the country. But yeah, it was quite a roller coaster.
Zoe, back to you for a second. Being a fall sport athlete and having the chance to compete, and I should obviously note that what a season it was this past fall, where you won the NEC and won that great opening round game and gave on everything that they could handle up in stores. Can you talk through kind of this past season, what that was like for you, and maybe kind of give us a little bit perhaps of a preview of what you think the next season could look like for Fairfield field hockey?
So as you said, it was awesome this season. It was more than I could have ever expected and imagined. And I'm glad that I got to participate with the girls on my team. So going into preseason, we had this motto, and it was 212, and that was pushing the extra degree. So whether that be sprinting 10 extra yards to get in front of the ball and stop a play from happening, or using 5 extra pounds in the weight room, it was all about just going the extra mile, pretty much taking the extra step and giving it your all. So we basically just wanted to work for each other, play as hard as we can, and never give up. There, as you can see from all the overtime games, we never let down. We never stopped playing. So it was just amazing, and I can't wait to see what happens for next fall. I'm really excited to get back on campus and train.
And for those of you who haven't seen any of those games, or maybe perhaps you want to relive some of those games, I know our social media platforms have been piling up some of our favorite games from the Stag Sports Network, so make sure you go ahead and do so. Looking ahead towards the fall, we've had a couple of questions for our coaches about what recruiting is looking like. Now, I know for both of our coaches that are on today's panel, it doesn't fully relate in terms of the immediate season that's going to come in the fall season, but with Coach Young, Coach Field, with your next season, it's going to be around the corner. I know things are going to be a little bit different. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Coach Young, we'll start with you, and Coach Field, you can chime in right after.
Yeah, we just kind of finished up recruiting a couple weeks ago, put the finishing touches on our 2021 class, I guess we are now. And, we added a forward from Baltimore, Jason Edopai from Storied Program, Mount St. Joseph's in Baltimore, and another freshman guard named Jalen Leach from Tilton Academy in New Hampshire. And we also have 2 transfers that'll be joining us, Jake Wojcik, 6'4" guard from Richmond, and Zach Chrysler, a 6'8" forward from Rice. So, and I'll leave you with a little teaser. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get another announcement for one more additional Stag. So we've been busy finishing up our recruiting class. We've got a great core of guys that are returning, adding what we feel is going to be 5 new players who will make a real impact on our program moving forward. But we did it all through Zoom, and the coaches did a great job. And this is kind of the new reality that we're doing with recruiting. So we were fortunate to get some commitments, and looking forward, hopefully, to having them on campus soon.
Yeah, I can jump in. I mean, we're super excited about our future. We have a great 2020 class incoming, and we've been able to connect with them by Zoom again. I think we're all adjusting to that new normal. And we probably met with them a little bit earlier than we normally would have. They would normally still be in school. But it's nice to be able to talk with them and to have regular communication. We're excited about our prospects for our 2021 class. We were able to get out and see them in previous segments of the lacrosse world. And you know what? We're adjusting to what recruiting is going to look like. There's a lot of unknowns for lacrosse and for most sports in terms of the summer. But we're being creative with how we connect with athletes. We're being creative with how we identify. And we're okay with it taking longer. I think the biggest thing that we've come to understand is that the process is the process. And it's okay if it takes a little bit longer. It's okay if this group, their process doesn't look like someone else's in terms of the timeline. That's okay. We can all adapt to the adversity. We can all be resilient. And we're excited for our future.
Question here for Coach Young. Want to hear the thoughts of your emotions on the day that you picked up your first win as a Fairfield basketball coach when you knocked off Holy Cross in their building.
Probably relief was the first emotion that I had, that I was kind of able to get that first win. But it was a great day for me, a great day for the team. I wish we could have done it in regulation. They made me wait 5 minutes longer than normal, but I was just really more happy for them, all their hard work that they had put in the preseason, and leading into practice, we'd come close on a couple occasions before we played Holy Cross and come up short. So it was nice to get the first one, but really just happy for our team that they we really saw their hard work and their dedication that they had put in pay off, and got a good win over Holy Cross in overtime.
A question for Paul. Colleges across the country have been cutting sports in connection to the budget shortfall from COVID-19. The question is Fairfield in a good spot right now at the moment with their current varsity sports, and what is the planning processes looking like for the upcoming fall season?
Thanks, JJ. Appreciate that. And it's an unfortunate offshoot of the pandemic and its far-reaching impact to schools. And a lot of that, just for the context of the viewers, and perhaps the question is a lot of that is driven by the cancellation of the NCAA men's basketball tournament and the revenue distributions that tournament affords to conferences and thus to our member institutions. So that is a huge financial hit and impact that reached all of Division I. So that's a big piece of that. And depending on the level you're at, I think for the Power 5 schools, there's real concern about whether or not they'll play football games. And so I think some of those are in response to that. Others, different schools are in different financial positions. I would say that the overriding sense that I've gotten being in this chair, being a part of the senior leadership group at Fairfield, is that we are operating from a great position of strength. I think our family, our alumni network should take note of that. I think that's come through in our response in terms of how we've weathered this storm, if you will, to date. And our focus is on trying to maintain that position of strength. And we're trying to do the same thing with our athletics program. So we have made, we're on a great trajectory. We've made great progress as a university, and the same goes for our athletics program. We're trying to continue that and we're focusing on trying to continue to provide all our programs with the resources to be successful for the coming year. And with our primary focus on literally being how we get started. So that's what we're really honing in on right now.
Thank you, Paul. Next question is for Coach Field. Champions 2018, champions in 2019, 2020 season. Technically, 2021 still a chance for a three-peat. The question is there any pressure to three-peat?
I don't think there's any pressure. I think we put pressure on ourselves as a team to perform well and to keep advancing our mission. And our mission is to win in the NCAA tournament games. It's not to just win the MAC. Winning the MAC is obviously a goal, and it's the first goal, and it's the easiest path into the NCAA tournament, but it's not our end goal. So the only pressure that we feel is pressure that we put on ourselves. It's not from external sources. But, as I said to the girls the day our season ended, well, it just means that trophy sits in our trophy case for one more year. So we'll hold on to it for another year. But we have our work cut out for us. We're going to have a lot of new faces in the coming year. But I remain very, very confident in our ability to win. I remain very confident in our ability to adapt. For those of you that have watched the last 2 years, we haven't been the same team 2 years running. We've been different teams that have still managed to come out with wins. So no matter how we do it, this team manages to come out on the good side of it. So, no pressure, but we're going to hold on to that trophy for another year.
Thanks, Coach. I have a question for our international resident on this panel. That would be Lewis. As an international student, what sort of difficulties do you face with the differences between the American system and the system in your home country?
That's a great question, JJ. And I think I'm going to relate it back to the student athlete experience. It's very unique to the US college system. Coming from Australia and growing up playing tennis most of my childhood, I wouldn't have the opportunity to continue playing while studying at the same time. That was the whole reason that I set a goal to come to the United States and study and play at the same time. So it is a very unique experience, and it's one that I'll never forget. And I, whether I stay here in the United States or I go back to Australia, I will encourage all student athletes to really follow this college path and college pathway. I know many Australian tennis players that went on and chose not to go to college. They stayed and they studied in Australia and tried to make it professionally in tennis, and it's a difficult path, as we've all seen. I think this is the best pathway if you're talented enough and gifted, and you get a great degree at the same time. So it's a very unique experience, and there are other challenges that come with it, being from a different country, but we've all seen those, and I'm used to them over time. It's my 4th year here in the United States. So, but I think it comes down to the student athlete experience and how unique it is to the US and how special it is as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Lewis. Question here for Paul, and this is about scheduling. Paul, can you kind of give us a timeline on when possibly we could be seeing schedules for our fall and winter sports?
Yeah, there's probably a couple ways to answer that, JJ. At this point, traditionally, our fall schedules would be, very well complete. We have proactively gone back with our coaches, given some of the circumstances surrounding different state guidelines, different health and safety issues, and a lot of the unknowns with that. We've gone back to all of our coaches and kind of rethought some of that by way of perhaps tweaking some out of region contests, and really taking a hard look at that, all in the name of trying to do that effectively without negating the experience of our athletes to play the types of schedules that we want to play against the schools we want to compete against. And certainly we don't want to negatively impact their ability to compete and progress against the best and do those kinds of things. So those are somewhat of a work in progress still at this point. We've been working closely with Coach Young, certainly on the men's basketball schedule, which I'm sure is of interest to a lot of people out there. But we're getting close. I would say hopefully in the coming weeks we will be able to give a snapshot of those. But I think people need to understand that this could be very fluid as we proceed into the fall. And as I alluded to earlier, there's still a lot of question marks and things that need to fall into the place for us to have a very clear picture or path as to how we are going to operate and when we're going to be playing games and against whom. So it could be a very fluid environment. So even if we were to distribute or post or our schedules, just please understand that those could change. Some by necessity and some for numerous other reasons. So we're in good shape given where we are, and I think some of the proactive measures we've made. But stay tuned; they could change.
Thank you, Paul. Question for our student athletes on the panel. How has this situation impacted your incoming teammates and the ability to get them to feel part of the new team's culture? We'll start with Lewis, and then if Zoe wants to add anything to that.
That's a great question, JJ, as well. And I think it's a challenge that all teams are going to face with incoming freshmen and incoming transfers. It's a weird time for new teammates and for teams going forward and what things are going to be looking like for the upcoming year. However, we remain positive on the fact that we want to stay connected to our teammates and make them feel welcome. Just last week, we announced a transfer coming and joining the men's tennis team, and we're having a Zoom this weekend to kind of get to know the guys. And for the voluntary challenges that we're kind of participating in over the summer to make everyone feel involved, we want them to be part of it too, because they are the team going forward. And I think, as we've all seen, it's more important now than ever to feel connected. And I think it's really important to include those guys and make them feel welcome as well.
Yeah, exactly what Lewis said. Our team, we have this thing where you split into families, and I'm a mom for my family. So I have an incoming girl from the Netherlands, and I made it so I contacted her immediately, and I was like, how's it going? Are you okay? I wanted to check up on her, see how she is, introduce myself. And I think it's just important to do that with everyone. So we try to include them, and we're going to include them in the upcoming activities, as Lewis said.
Great. Thanks, guys. This is a combo question for our two coaches as well as Paul. So we'll start with Jay, then go to Laura, and then Paul, if you have anything to add on that. With the current situation impacting your team's abilities to travel for away or neutral site games and impact our ability as fans at a distance to be able to see our alma mater play.
Yeah, I just think it's right now it's premature to talk about any of that. That there as it stands right now, there is no impact on travel for us. There is no impact on fan attendance. So that could certainly change. We're well aware of that. But right now, we're planning on having a normal 29 game schedule in men's basketball with travel included, and having fans at our games. If that changes, we'll do like we always do. We'll be flexible and figure it out. But right now, we're conducting business as we're going to have a normal season and have fans in attendance.
I'll echo that right now. We are business as usual. We benefit from a pretty good regional schedule, and in particular, this coming year, we don't have a tough travel schedule. So by virtue of luck, our schedule is pretty good. We haven't had to make any changes. No teams that we know of have had to make changes that have affected us. So we hope to take the field, and we hope to take the field with fans.
Yeah, both great answers and both appropriate. I'll try and unpack it a little bit. Certainly, across the country in the last 2 months, there's been a lot of talk about, particularly at the conference level, I would say, about regionalization of scheduling and recalibration of schedules within conference parameters. And frankly, some of that's is driven by a number of reasons. Some of it's driven by financial reasons, which we talked about earlier, and concerns over those, and people trying to be proactive, or in some cases reactive, based on the institution you're at. But I also think that is driven in large part by, if you look back over the course of the last 10 years, the logic of geography in conference alignment is illogical. There isn't any. So that's now, in some sense, being recalibrated back to some normalcy, or splitting people into divisions to allow for conference play that is more regionalized. We are fortunate, as Laura just alluded to, that our conference within the Division I framework makes a lot of sense geographically still. So that's good for us. And as I alluded to before, we're taking some proactive measures to try and set ourselves up for success with that and be nimble in that space. As it relates to fans, again, as Jay alluded to, Coach Young alluded to, it's still too early to tell with that, but we are engaged, just as everyone in my chair and our athletic departments across the country are engaging in scenario planning for hosting games in a number of different scenarios, be that with fans, be that without fans, be that by creating social distancing, and any or all of the above. So we're going through those thought processes right now. We certainly, it's incredibly valuable to us and important to us to have the fan support and direct fan support for parents and families and friends of our program and community members. We want to create that if we can, if at all possible. What it does, though, given those circumstances and the potential unknowns, is it creates an even renewed focus on what has become the incredible efforts of the folks who do what's right behind me in our STAG Sport Network. So we have done an incredible job with our broadcasts, JJ, you, and so many others. And we're going to continue to focus on that and even do our best to enhance that, because it will become of increased importance to those in our family who want to continue to stay engaged with our teams and what they're doing. So we will certainly, redouble our efforts in that regard to make sure people have access to our student athletes and our programs and everything that we're doing.
We have time just for one more quick question. This is for you, Paul. One of our first sports that are going to be coming back in the fall will be soccer, both the women and the men's side. Traditionally, the women's side usually opens up in mid to late August, with the men opening shortly after. Is there any sort of planning process that's going on right now? We've obviously seen professional leagues around the world bring in certain standards, shall we say, in terms of how games are going on. Is there any talk what's going on that front?
Yeah, I would every day, JJ, every day we're knee deep in conversations and scenario planning and trying to envision what we can do. And so we're developing plans as a university, as I alluded to earlier, for opening up the campus again, if you will, or repopulating the campus. And everything that we're doing is in accordance with the guidelines that have come from the state and this commission on higher ed. So anything we do athletically would have to certainly align with that and be in sync with that. At the same time, we also have to be very cognizant of what's happening at the NCAA level, and whatever we discuss and potentially agree to as a conference, as it relates to men's soccer, the MAC. So there's a number of factors that will go into determining when and how our athletes come back. You're staring at the guy that wants to get them back doing what they do best and doing what gives them joy more than anybody else. One of the things that we're looking at as a university is this, and that I think is helpful from the state guidelines, is it's allowing us flexibility to create our own plans within certain parameters. There's phases and with general dates and so forth. There's the opportunity for some phased approaches of cohorts or groups in the summer, and certainly more definitive dates of repopulating the campus in the fall. So we're taking a look at all that to try and see what might work for us. Paramount on that is obviously the health and safety of all those involved, and trying to make sure that we align effectively with whatever plans the university puts forth.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. That's going to conclude for our question and answer segment for today's show. And before we finish up for the afternoon, Paul, just like to hear some final thoughts from you, and if there's anything you'd like to say to our viewing audience this afternoon.
Thank you, JJ. I'll just start by thanking you for doing such a great job of taking us through this. And I will extend my personal thanks to all of our panelists for joining me and us today. Thank you all so much for taking the time to join us. I know it's in the middle of the day, and we appreciate you taking the opportunity to listen and partake and indulge us in this new venture. I guess I'll finish with this, because we've touched on so many topics, and I will just say this: I have never been prouder to be associated with this great university, and I have felt that from the moment I stepped on foot campus here and was very fortunate to sit in this chair. But in the last 2 months, I've just seen us respond in such an incredible way, from a position of strength, as I alluded to before. We're on such a positive trajectory as a university in all aspects of our operations, and we have not, even in this environment, we have been so resilient, but largely because we have remained steadfast in our purpose and our mission and our focus on that. And so while the ambient environment has changed dramatically and is changing by the hour, Fairfield hasn't changed. We're the same university. We're the same great place with incredible people and unbelievable students and student athletes, and we're going to continue to be. And what we might function a little differently moving forward, but I believe 100%. Again, having had a front row seat to all this and how we've kind of navigated our way through it, that we are going to come out of this even stronger than when we started. And I do believe that will be concurrent with how we proceed with Stags athletics as well. So just really proud, really inspired by seeing how our student athletes have responded to all this. Really incredibly grateful to all our coaches, Jay and Laura included, for how they've navigated our student athletes through this time and continue to do that. We've got an incredible coaching faculty and extraordinary student athletes, and we are going to come through this on the other side as that premier Division I athletics program that we aspire to be every day. But we cannot do that without the continued support of all those who are viewing today and have taken part, and certainly all those who may not have been able to join us but continue to support us with such generosity and such loyalty and such passion. So grateful to all of you, and so thankful to be part of this great program and this great university, and we appreciate you. Thanks very much, and go Stags.
Thank you very much for that, Paul. And again, for those who would like to know more information about STAGiving Day, which will be on June the 4th, all you have to do is go to fairfield.edu/giveathletics. So like Paul said, I'd like to thank our entire panel for joining us for today's program. Hope to see you guys all very soon. I know Paul's already mentioned it, but I too am looking very much forward to seeing you all back in person, seeing everybody back on campus, and kicking things off as soon as possible. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, go Stags.